My friend Craig Hendry has spent a ton of time and effort exposing what appears to be one heck of a scandal in a small town in Indiana, and now he needs our help. He's facing felony stalking charges for continuing to go to the government buildings and public meetings to gather information he used to break this story exposing government officials. First, we'll check out his story, and then we'll talk about the public officials that are using the threat of government against him to try to shut him up, including this super honorable judge that has now placed a gag order on him.
Today I am bringing you proof of a corrupt mayor and employees of a small city in Indiana. Let's get into the video.
If you sell this property to some developer or something, do you automatically record that to all of a sudden that developer is responsible from then on?
Yes. Okay. We give them a deed. They get a deed and it's recorded here.
So there's no building not going on the city property before it's turned over to the developer?
No.
That is the attorney for the city of Clinton in Indiana, and everything you just heard him say was an absolute lie. He is currently being questioned by Vermillion County Commissioner Tim Yoakum.
My question is, has the city had anyone build units on their property before the...
Not that I know of. Not that I know of.
The commissioner is asking about these properties. The houses on them were built by contractor Timothy Cottrell, while the city still owned the properties. This allowed the contractor to avoid the cost of such inconveniences as buying the land and paying property taxes, which is probably why Scott Craig is feigning ignorance about them. But he then claims to be knowledgeable about the very area that all this happened on.
That area down around Feather Creek in Clinton, there's a lot of parcels down there, and most people weren't paying their taxes on them because they were worthless parcels of land. So we had a lot concentrated there in that North 6th Street, North 7th Street, North Street area. Most of those now have either been gone through the tax sale. There's a couple people who still live down there and they do pay their taxes.
So he is aware of the properties, but at the same time, unaware of them. Now I'm sure you all are thinking, why does this matter? If government officials are speaking, most often they are lying. As true as this lie affects real people and also shows to an extent the lack of accountability for government officials and their close friends. Let me give you some background. In the early 2000s, a man named Kevin Kiger bought almost a whole 2 blocks of properties with the hope of building a home for himself and his offspring. When Kevin went to the city to get a building permit, he was told by Mayor Jack Guilfoyle and 2 of the mayor's predecessors that he would not be able to get a permit for that land because it is in a flood zone. After Kevin realized that he would not be legally allowed to erect a building on his own property, he judged that the property was worthless to him. As a result, Kevin stopped paying property taxes on the now worthless land. The city then took the property from Kevin for delinquent taxes and allowed Timothy Cottrell, a local contractor and friend of the mayor's, to start construction on the same property they just told Kevin he couldn't construct on. On top of that, they let the mayor's friend build while the city still owned the property, which allowed the mayor's friend to avoid property taxes and possibly liability, contrary to the lies attorney Scott Craig told at the county commissioners meeting.
If you sell this property to some developer or something, do you automatically record that to all of a sudden that developer is responsible from then on?
Yes.
Okay.
We give them a deed. They get a deed and it's recorded here.
So there's no building not going on the city property before it's turned over to the developer?
No.
Let's get into the evidence. We know the city attorney is lying about there being no building on city property because the property was transferred to Tim Cottrell in 2023, according to the county website. But Google satellite images from mid-2022 show that 12 properties were already constructed there. In addition to this evidence, the local news also ran a story about these very properties, in which Timothy Cottrell makes some pretty revealing statements about these properties. Let's watch.
New housing is coming to a spot in Clinton that sat empty for nearly a decade. The floodplain by North 6th Street now has 12 homes with many young families living in them.
News 10's Blake Dahlia tells us how this project came together and how it'll help the small town. Patrice Rondrell, a local business owner, and Mayor Jack Guilfoyle have one thing in common. They both say they want to see more young people live and work in Clinton. Now that business owner has laid the groundwork to help make that dream a reality. If you know Tim Cottrell, you know he's either working on roofs or building homes. He says he loves the city of Clinton, but a conversation with his daughter about the city had him concerned.
Well, it started with a comment from my daughter, kind of a negative comment about the city, and that struck me because that's our hometown, and I didn't want her to feel like it's a bad area.
Mayor Jack Guilfoyle says a lot of younger people are leaving the city, but says Cottrell is helping bring some back. He's invested in building 12 houses on a floodplain near North 6th Street. He's building them to be flood-proof.
I've been on a mission for several years to improve Clinton as much as I can. I try to take the worst houses in town and then either tear them down and build something new or rehab them if I can.
That dream of making his city better came with a pretty hefty price tag.
Yeah, I don't know who else would want to sink $1 million into flood zone in Clinton, and that's about what it ended up costing. And I don't have $1 million, but you know, I found a way. I found a way to make it happen.
He did not have $1 million, but he found a way. Perhaps some of the money he used came from the city of Clinton, as the city did admit to reallocating almost $250,000 from a project in the town to the same area that Cottrell built his housing on. Also, when the properties were belatedly transferred over to Cottrell, the clerk-treasurer of the city, Lori Kersey, appears to have never signed her name on the quitclaim deed that I have been shown, supposedly showing that she did not support these questionable acts within her own city government.
I don't know who else would want to sink $1 million into flood zone in Clinton, and that's about what it ended up costing. And I don't have $1 million, but you know, I found a way. I found a way to make it happen.
One thing is certain. Tim Cottrell has never met Kevin Kiger, the man who originally owned and wanted to build on this property.
Initially, I wasn't sure what kind of demand we would have for them, and as I built, you know, I had to take my time building them. I didn't have the funding to do it all at once, but as I built each one of them, they were rented out before we even finished them, so it really worked out well.
So now, thanks to Cottrell's statement, we know that he was renting out city property and presumably keeping the money for himself, which explains why the county government was asking questions in the first place. What we are asking is how they are allowed to do this to people like Kevin Kiger and get away with it. According to Mayor Jack Guilfoyle, the state has already looked into this issue and found no wrongdoing.
Mayor, why have you sold properties to a private contractor for an average of $1 per property?
Ask him. He's asked me that question before, and so you both got the answer.
So did the state of Indiana.
Yeah, and they said there was nothing wrong.
No, they didn't.
Yes, we did.
No, it's on tape.
The city attorney met with
The city attorney said he swept it under the rug.
The city has never provided any proof that any building permits were ever granted to Tim Cottrell to build in that flood zone. And the person in charge of the permits for the city, Kenneth Weininger, told me that Tim never got permits. What he got was permission. Sure would have been nice for Kevin Kiger, but the reality is that we shouldn't need permission to build on our own property. We definitely shouldn't be paying thugs like these for the right to own property. However, the moral of this story is, rules don't apply to the rulers, only the rules.
Some may be asking, who exactly is to blame for this double standard in the city of Clinton? And in my opinion, the answer to that is the mayor, Jack Guilfoyle Jr., and the other local officials that have imposed the rules when it benefits them and overlooked the same rules when their friend is the party in question. As a result of my investigation into this city and asking questions to local officials, I have been charged with felony stalking. The alleged victim, a woman that works in the mayor's office in real life, but on paper is a utility clerk. Me exposing corruption, asking questions of local officials, and exercising my right to record in public while doing so is not a criminal offense. However, they are attempting to persecute me with felony charges that carry up to 2.5 years in prison. To help me fight back against this tyranny, please donate to either my Cash App or PayPal, and share this video to help expose this corruption to as many people as possible.
After Patricia Karanovich, a government employee working at your expense, put these bogus charges on Craig, the super honorable Judge Hunter Reese ordered Craig to pretrial services and demanded that he take a regular drug test at his own expense, gave him a curfew, and then granted the state a gag order for all discovery in the case. In other words, a lot more corruption is likely to be exposed when Craig receives discovery for these charges, and the judge has ordered that he is not to release that information to the public. A link to Craig's channel is in the pinned comment and the description. Make sure to head over there, subscribe, and ring the bell so you get notified when he gives updates on this case.